Commissioner, if you can just state your name for the record and then begin your testimony when you're ready.
Sure. Danielle Outlaw, Police Commissioner. Good afternoon, Councilman Johnson and other members of the Special Committee on Gun Violence Prevention. My name, as I stated, is Danielle Outlaw, and I am the Police Commissioner for the Philadelphia Police Department. I'm here with Deputy Commissioner, he just stepped out, Dennis Wilson from Special Operations, Chief Inspector Frank Venor from the Detective Bureau, Chief Inspector Joe Dales from the Patrol Bureau, Inspector Altavis Love Craighead from the Community Relations Unit, and I also have Commissioners Wimberly and Coulter with me. First, thank you for allowing the Philadelphia Police Department to be a part of these proceedings and to allow me to identify the efforts currently in place to serve crime victims in the city of Philadelphia. Please let me state at the outset that a core tenet of the police department's mission is to provide quality service to all residents and visitors. This includes providing quality service and compassion to the direct and indirect victims of crime throughout Philadelphia. Most specifically, as stated in the Pennsylvania Crime Victims Act, the Philadelphia Police Department firmly believes that all victims of crime deserve to be treated with dignity, respect, courtesy, and sensitivity. Also, keep in mind that many times, crime victims are often the most vulnerable in our communities, and they deserve nothing less. So please allow me to explain the systems that have been established within the police department to serve all victims, and then I will outline some of the additional measures we have in place to address families of homicide victims who are the indirect victims of these crimes. First, the Victim Services Unit is a centralized unit within the Community Relations Bureau that oversees the operations and training of victim assistance officers. These officers are embedded into each police district, the airport, Special Victims Unit, and the Homicide Unit. The victim assistance officers are charged with ensuring the department complies with the Pennsylvania Crime Victims Act by providing supportive services and connecting victims with the Victims Compensation Assistance Program. As you probably already know, the Victims Compensation Assistance Program was created in 1976 and was established as a response to the financial losses incurred by victims of crime. In preparation for today's hearing, I have come to learn that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania was the 10th state in the nation to establish a compensation program to help victims and their families by easing the financial burden that crime imposes upon them. Individuals who are injured during crime may be compensated for uninsured or unreimbursable medical expenses, counseling, relocation expenses, crime scene cleanup expenses, and loss of earnings. In the case of death, funeral expenses and loss of support may be compensated to those who qualify under this program. On behalf of sexual assault victims, healthcare providers may submit claims for the costs associated with forensic rape examinations when medical insurance is not available or the victim chooses not to access their health insurance. However, the victim assistance officers do much more than just connect the victims to Victims Compensation Assistance Program. They will personally coordinate resources for crime victims based on individualized needs. For example, victims of gun violence may require transportation to and from court and counseling for themselves and family members. While the victims of domestic gun violence may have these same needs, the domestic nature of their incident will prompt a more specific response regarding resources, such as connecting the victims to Women Against Abuse and assisting in obtaining protection from abuse orders, obtaining temporary housing, or possible relocation. The victim assistance officers are trained in the requirements set forth in the Pennsylvania Crime Victims Act and attend monthly training sessions organized by the Victim Assistance Unit, which includes identifying best practices, service provider updates, new available resources for victims, and departmental updates. The goal of this continuous training is to constantly improve victim services and support in Philadelphia. Toward this goal, the Victim Services Unit also maintains a network of victim advocates and service providers reaching beyond the borders of Philadelphia. The Victim Service Unit assists district-level victim assistance officers in guaranteeing that the appropriate resources have been provided for victims and notifies additional units or agencies of specific incidents when necessary. Also, the Victim Services Unit members are prepared to respond to large-scale incidents, such as mass shootings, to provide services and resources to communities which may have been affected and coordinate with other agencies to develop a focused response for the community as a whole. These services are for victims, all victims in Philadelphia, but we have taken additional measures when assisting the families of homicide victims. Specifically, continuing on the success of a collaborative reform process with the Justice Department regarding the use of force, the department recently contracted the Police Executive Research Forum to conduct a collaborative review of the processes and procedures in the Philadelphia Homicide Unit. Consequently, over 70 recommendations were made to improve the Homicide Unit, and many of those recommendations have already been implemented. Relevant to today's hearing, however, the Homicide Unit has officially codified the next of kin notification process, the release of descendant personal property, the notification of family upon the arrest of an alleged offender, and notification of the Victim Witness Relocation Program. These standardized procedures will ensure that each and every victim's family will receive fair and consistent services. In addition to these protocols, the Homicide Unit is in the process of finalizing its next of kin meeting protocol, where assigned detectives and supervisors from the Homicide Unit will meet with family members to provide updates to the criminal cases, but more importantly, to let the families know that we have not forgotten their loved one and we will never stop searching for those responsible. Along the lines of never forgetting and being ever vigilant, the police department launched in August of 2019 a website, PhillyUnsolvedMurders.com, that brings attention to the many victims of homicides in the city of Philadelphia and offers a safe pathway for the public to get information to detectives. Specifically, each individual unsolved murder case has its own dedicated page on the website, and each page includes a form at the bottom where users can submit tips, either using their names or anonymously. Equally important, family members of victims can contribute photos and provide reflections about their loved ones. The site also includes reward information and videos released by detectives. This will allow the family members to have an outlet to reflect on their loved ones so the stories are not forgotten. One final note, empathy and compassion can often be lost in the heat of a crisis or in the flurry of activity that occurs in the immediate aftermath of a homicide. It was the Philadelphia Homicide Unit, and specifically Lieutenant Norm Davenport, who saw this disconnect and anguish family members were often faced with when they would appear at the hospital where a loved one had been taken. In the criminal justice world, the body of a homicide victim becomes a crime scene, and in law enforcement, we are trained to preserve the crime scene and any evidence without much thought of the family members. Well, the body of a loved one is much more than a crime scene to their family. But too often, family members would be prohibited from even viewing their loved ones at the hospital for fear of compromising any evidence. Consequently, family members were often left helpless and distraught. Lieutenant Davenport recognized this need to assist these families, but so did the staff at Temple University Emergency Department. So together, a memorandum of understanding was created between the Homicide Unit and Temple University Hospital that would not only allow all evidence to be preserved, but would also allow those families who wish to see their loved ones the opportunity to do so. This may not seem like a lot on its face, but to the families, it allows everything to slow down in a hectic environment and for the grieving process to begin with dignity and respect. Empathy and compassion was the impetus for this collaboration, and we look forward to working with all emergency departments throughout the city to establish similar protocols. As I conclude, I'd like to leave you with this. You all know that I'm new to my position, and many have asked my plans to address violent crime here in Philadelphia. This includes our efforts to serve victims of crime and their loved ones in the city of Philadelphia. And while I'm just in my second week, I want to be very clear. There is a sense of urgency among us in comprehensively addressing violent crime, specifically gun violence that disparately impacts our communities. Recognizing it as a flexible living document, we will continue to work within the parameters of the Philadelphia Roadmap to Safer Communities established in January 2019 via Operation Pinpoint. I believe in the very basic tenets of procedural justice: voice, neutrality, respect, and trust. I believe in the inclusion of local, state, and federal partners to assist with crime prevention and harm reduction strategies. I believe in the use of data to inform strategic deployment of resources. I also believe in clear communication and direction given to all strategy stakeholders to ensure there is no confusion regarding roles and responsibilities. I believe in the use of technology to increase efficiencies and to expand PPD's footprint while preserving the constitutional rights of all who live, work, and play here in our beautiful city. It is my role to position every member of the PPD for success and not failure. I believe in consistent training and accountability to ensure optimal performance and service delivery from every member. We will be a learning organization. And I also believe in working with others to break down the silos that too often impede progress of community engagement and inclusion. In closing, I look forward to working with each and every one of you as we align with the city's 5-year strategic plan towards violence prevention that will afford our communities the ability to exist without the crime that we all fear. This is not an insurmountable task. I also look forward to hearing from those who will be testifying today. Their stories and their insight will give us the opportunity to learn how we can improve the services that we provide. This concludes my testimony. I thank you again for the opportunity to present to each and every one of you. And I do have subject matter experts from within the police department here with me today to answer any follow-up questions that you may have. Thank you.